Welcome all of you in this next edition of Indic Samvad. Today I'll be talking to our esteemed guest who is Supreme Court lawyer Sai Deepak, and I'll be talking about NRC. So first of all, kindly explain to our viewers what is actually NRC, because a lot of people are confused about this.
Right. So NRC effectively stands for National Register of Citizens, and this comes under a specific provision of the Citizenship Act, which is Section 18 of the Citizenship Act. And the purpose of NRC is to actually have a national database of citizens which can be used to verify their authenticity as citizens of this country. But this particular provision or this mechanism has acquired significance primarily in the historic context of Assam, and there's a good reason for it. So, if you look at the history of partition, while most of us focus on Kashmir as one of the focal states over which India and Pakistan have had a problem, they've always had a problem with West Bengal, Hyderabad, and Assam because they've believed that there was a significant Muslim population which warranted the merger of these states with the dominion of Pakistan or with the Union of Pakistan. That has been their position all along. So if you look at the autobiography of Jinnah, or if you look at the writings of even Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is otherwise seen as a pro-India leader, he has always taken the position that Assam is an unfinished agenda of Pakistan or Bangladesh and must therefore at some stage become part of East Pakistan or Greater Bangladesh. That has been their position all along. Okay, this is the historic background. And prior to the partition, prior to 1971 war, before the establishment of Bangladesh, the total population of Hindus in East and West Pakistan put together was close to 23 to 27%. But after the creation of Bangladesh, it fell to 3% in Pakistan because 23% was in Bangladesh. So therefore, the bulk of the Hindu population in Pakistan was actually in Bangladesh or East Pakistan. Now, this figure continued to drop. So the figure of 27% in 1947 came down to less than 2% less than 10% in 1991, largely because of religious persecution. Okay, so while Bangladesh may have split from Pakistan,
May I interrupt?
yes, please.
When you're saying that the population declined due to persecution, were they eliminated or were they converted? How did this happen?
So three things happened: elimination, conversion, and immigration. Okay, all three things happened. So while people assume that Bangladesh is a friend of India, they forget that Bangladesh is effectively erstwhile East Pakistan, and therefore they subscribe to the notion of the two-nation theory. That is the thing that they put their belief in, so to speak. Therefore, while Bangladeshis could have differed with West Pakistanis in terms of culture and language, their position with respect to religious minorities and non-Muslim minorities was no different from Pakistani Muslims. That has been their position. And Bangladesh is an Islamic republic which effectively believed in the concept of superior rights for Muslims and inferior rights for non-Muslims. That is effectively their position. They may not say it, but effectively that's how they've treated their people. And whatever the constitution may say, at the end of the day, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. If you see a drastic fall in their numbers of non-Muslims in that particular state, then something is going wrong. Okay. Two, so this has happened from 1950s onwards, when as a consequence of persecution, a lot of Bengali Hindus were jumping over to the Indian side in West Bengal, Tripura and Assam. Okay. But apart from that, what was happening was, there is a historic context for immigration of Bengali Muslims into Assam, West Bengal and Tripura, because they wanted the lower part of Assam to be part of Bangladesh because it's an extremely resource-rich region. It has coal, petrol, minerals and forests, a lot of wood. And Bangladesh has always been among the most densely populated countries in the world, and I suspect it's among the top 3 densely populated countries in the world. Therefore, they have a population which can't be contained in the geography that they have. Therefore, they have to adopt a policy known as the free living space policy or the Lebensraum policy, which Hitler had earlier adopted, which is to provide for the population. They decided to expand to different areas, grow in numbers, and then try and ask for merger of those areas with the home country. Okay, that's effectively the design at play. Now, this started, its origins are actually in 1905 when Bengal was partitioned by Lord Curzon, and he decided to bring Muslim laborers from East Bengal into West Bengal and Assam for cultivation of tea because Britishers needed tea. So that's how it started. That effectively acquired a religious motivation and a political motivation by the time the idea of Pakistan came into existence in 1946. And if you look at the most leading voices of partition and the idea of Pakistan around that period, they were all Bengali Muslim voices. Okay, Sadullah, Sohrawardi, all these people. These are all people who have actively asked for the creation of the state of Pakistan on an identity basis, on a religious basis. Now, this entire thing acquired a different hue when in 1971 this war was going on. Almost 10 million people jumped into India, and over a period of what, barely 13, 14 months. And that is why India's intervention became necessary. And if you look at the maximum number of intellectuals and people raped and killed in Bangladesh by East Pakistanis, by West Pakistanis, they were all Hindu intellectuals. They never used the word Hindu, but they were Bengali Hindu intellectuals. The maximum amount of rapes happened with Bengali Hindu women of of Bangladesh and erstwhile East Pakistan. So when all of this happened, Assam was under the threat of losing its cultural identity because of this influx of this population. Okay, so you have to understand. So two sets of people are coming, the Bengali Hindu and the Bengali Muslim. The Bengali Hindu is coming to avoid persecution. The Bengali Muslim is coming because he has a larger plan, which is that either it must become part of Bangladesh or they must occupy this area. And this is not something that I am saying. There are multiple reports for it. So in 1931, the superintendent of census, C.S. Mullen, came out with a report exactly explaining this. And this has been used by the Supreme Court in its judgments on this issue. Then there was a report of 1998 of the governor of Assam who said the very same thing. So therefore, they decided to update the census of Assam and create a register. So the first census was undertaken in 1950 when Assam had a population of 80 lakh. So then they said that since the illegal migration population has gone up, we need a second NRC. That is why you're looking at this process.
Okay. The way you've explained is it is in the national interest to have an NRC. But then why is it that some vested interests or some political parties are creating a controversy over it?
Right.
Kindly elaborate.
So I will use the words of the Supreme Court, which has clearly said that the Bengali Muslim migration has been facilitated by vote bank politics, and there are multiple pull factors from India and push factors from Bangladesh, okay, which have resulted in pampering these sections. Here's the funny part. The Assam student movement started in 1979 to prevent this illegal migration and to force the government to take a measure, to take a step against it. So they came out with a legislation. The government came out with a legislation called Illegal Migration Detection of Tribunals Act 1983. That act was meant to facilitate faster deportation of illegal migrants. The Supreme Court notes in its judgment of 2005 that the legislation did the exact opposite. Okay.
Okay. How come?
In the sense, under the Foreigners Act, which applies to deportation of illegal aliens or let's say migrants, the burden is on the person to show why he is a citizen and not a foreigner. Okay. Which is the standard way of going about it. Because it is for him to show why he must be kept in this country. Under the IMDT Act, they reversed it to say it is for the government to show why this particular person is an illegal migrant. So from 1983 to 1998, several thousand crores were spent on that particular process, out of which 9,599 people were identified as illegal migrants and only 1,454 were ultimately deported over a span of 15 years.
Which is a very poor conversion rate.
Exactly. This is what the Supreme Court realized and said, you need to strike down this particular legislation because it's unconstitutional and the central government has violated its obligations to the state of Assam under Article 355. Okay, so this is what happened.
Now, the way you are explaining it, that means then why only in Assam? Why not in other states also?
So if you look at the NRC rules, they come pursuant to the Citizenship Act and they came out with a rule under 2003, Citizenship Rules of 2003, under which NRC is carried out. The entire process for NRC is captured in the rules. Okay. And it clearly says that NRC is meant for the entire country and there is a separate schedule exclusively for the state of Assam. So they initially started off with Assam, but over a point of time, illegal migrants have spread across the country. In 98, when General S.K. Sinha sent his report to the President K.R. Narayanan, 8th of November 1998, he identified that the tentative number of illegal migrants in India was 10.83 million. Okay, out of which 5 and 4 million are between West Bengal and Assam, and the rest of them are in different parts of the country. Okay, this was in 98. We are in 2019. If you go to Delhi, you will find any number of Bangladeshi illegal migrants. If you go to Noida, you will find them. If you go to Kadalur, which is a remote part in Tamil Nadu, you will find them. Then you will find them in Hyderabad. And there are specific trains जो कोची जाती हैं केरला में जहाँ पे भरे होते हैं लोग. So not only do we have Bangladeshi migrants, illegal migrants, you also have Rohingyas. So therefore there is a connection. What is the connection? Rohingyas are Bengali Muslims from Chittagong under the colonial records. So Chittagongians was converted to Rohingyas. Uska upbranch hai ye. It is effectively a corrupted form of the same word. Okay. So there is no. So these days people are saying that there are Hindus in Rohingyas. No. Whenever you refer to a Rohingya, you're referring only to a Bengali Muslim, a Rohingya Muslim, and nobody else. Okay. So if you look at some of the articles written by Bangladeshi diplomats around that period, they clearly were indicating to the fact that Bangladeshis were moving in the southwest direction, which is the Arakan province of Burma, which is where Rohingyas are coming from, and they were moving to the northeast direction, which is where Assam is. Okay, so there was a movement in both directions, and they are all entering India. Okay, so this is effectively the problem. Therefore, NRC is needed across the country.
Then that brings us to the next point. When you are saying that there are two kinds of immigrants which are coming over here, one is Hindus who are trying to protect themselves from persecution. Other are Muslims who are coming under a larger design of the land jihad or whatever you may call it. Now, NRC will have adverse consequences on both of these groups, or can you please explain that?
So let me just clarify. Uh, Assamese Muslims themselves have a problem with Bengali Muslims from Bangladesh entering Assam because they believe that their cultural identity is under threat. So if you look at some of the records of the 1980s, especially around the Nelly massacre period, there have been instances where Assamese Muslims have attacked Bengali Muslims because they believe that these people, when they come in with a specific design. That was their belief, and this has been recorded also. There's a beautiful book on this issue by Hiranyakumar Bhattacharya, who served as an IPS in those areas for several decades. And his book is called Operation Lebensraum, and you should read it. It's a wonderful book on this particular point. Now, coming to the question that you asked, what is the current status of the outcome of NRC? After the final draft has been released, 19 lakh people have been found to be illegal migrants, so to speak, out of a population of around 3.02 crores or something. Okay, and out of which the maximum number of people are Bengali Hindus and not Bengali Muslims. Okay, and which is why the central government, when they took up this particular process in 2016, when they came to power in Assam, they immediately went to the Supreme Court to say the structure and design of the NRC is flawed and it is going to facilitate legalization of illegal migrants more than deportation. But the Supreme Court shot down that particular request, and uska natija aapke aankhon ke samne abhi hai, which is the maximum number of people who have been excluded from the list as a consequence of that are Bengali Hindus, the ones who are persecuted, and the ones who come here for economic reasons or for other reasons are the ones who have benefited, because at one stage the court realized that there were multiple rackets for forging of documents which happened. You have had time for close to 40 years to become legal citizens, with active role being played by state governments in legalizing them. People are aware that in the 70s, the communist government in West Bengal was giving them ration cards, voter IDs, this and that. Again, that happened even in Assam. In Assam, when this IMDT Act was in challenge before the Supreme Court, the Congress government, the Assam Gana Parishad government came up with the position that this act is unconstitutional, it affects the rights of our people, and they filed an affidavit. Because the state government has to file its position. When the power changed and Congress came into power in Assam, they said there is nothing wrong with that legislation at all. It's perfectly justified. It's perfectly constitutional. Therefore, as a consequence of politics and the time they've had, they've been legalized. Okay. Therefore, while in principle I believe that NRC as an activity must be undertaken across the country, the existing problems with the structure of NRC must be addressed before it is applied all over the country. Otherwise, we will end up legalizing more people than detecting illegal migrants. In fact, if you look at the history of Aadhaar, the Congress government wanted to introduce Aadhaar in the first place. I think in the 2009 to 2014 regime, the Parliamentary Standing Committee headed by Yashwant Sinha at that point said that Aadhaar could be used to legalize illegal migrants and it could create trouble for India. And during the process of Aadhaar issuance, multiple news reports showed that fake Aadhaar cards were being created for illegal migrants. At the end of the day, it doesn't create citizenship, and Aadhaar may not be accepted as a document for an NRC process. However, it clearly shows that if somebody wanted a forged or a fabricated document, it was not difficult to get at all. Therefore, before addressing that particular issue, you could not have proceeded with an NRC, and that's what the government was trying to do. Most importantly, Bangladesh, be it Begum Khalida Zia or Sheikh Hasina, regardless of their friendship towards India, have always said that there is not a single Bangladeshi illegal migrant in India. That is their position. So that means if you want to deport, if the other country is not willing to take them, how will you deport? So there were two solutions. The 175th Law Commission report and the letter of S.K. Sinha clearly say you should not give them voting rights and you should not give them the right to purchase immovable property. This is the solution. They should be treated as stateless persons. So I think we should use the Citizenship Amendment Bill to ensure that persecuted non-Muslim groups from these Muslim majority countries are given citizenship in India or at least refugee status, and the majority groups coming from let's say these countries, that is majority of that country, must be treated as illegal migrants and they must be deported. That's my position.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.